Welcome to our first streaming episode where we talk to Generator, an accelerator that's here in Alaska. But we're going to start this journey with some insightful conversation from Erica Dine, telling us a little bit about what Generator does and maybe some of the things that software developers in Alaska can get plugged into.
Hi, thanks, Andre. Yes, so my name's Erica. I am the program manager for gBeta. I'll get into what gBeta is, but first, my background is economics and finance. I also have a little bit of a medical background, and I was working for a venture capital firm based in Austin, Texas, prior to joining gBeta. I'm from here, from Alaska, and this program is open to every one in Alaska. So it's um, it's statewide and we recruit all over. So I'll get into the program here. It's a free 7-week startup accelerator program. It's for early stage companies and with local roots, aka they are based in Alaska or have some sort of ties to Alaska. Um, and the focus is the growth of early stage companies. And I'll get into how we do that. But if you're a software developer or whether you have a business idea or already a company that you've been running for X amount of years, um, I'd like to talk because it the line of who belongs in the program, it really just depends. I'll get into what we do and why that depends. So gBeta is actually part of a national company called Generator, and Generator is based out of Madison, Wisconsin. It started in 2012 by some venture capital lawyers. If you don't know what venture capital is, you can think of Shark Tank. Hey, we will give you 100K for 6% equity in your company. That's what venture capital is. It's an opportunity for investors. And if you're a startup looking to grow or you're a software developer and you need to hire employees and you need to scale your company, you're likely going to need investment to do that. And one way to do that is through loans, or another way to do that is venture capital. Um, so the reason that Generator started is that 80% of venture capital money, all that investment, that Shark Tank vibe, that 80% of those investment dollars go into Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston, which are startup hubs. And that often overlooked. A lot of founders like you who are in these geographically missed areas, but have talent that otherwise matches, if not exceeds, people in some of these areas. And it also overlooks certain demographics. So Generator's really mission is to reach startups in areas that are overlooked by traditional venture capital. And so we do this through many different types of programs. And the one that I'm going to be talking about today is gBeta, because that's what's available in Alaska. And the reason it even exists in Alaska, which it has been here since 2021, and we've graduated 30 companies so far in Alaska. But the reason it exists is because local economic drivers sponsor it. And so it's available for free. Um, and that's University of Alaska Fairbanks Center for Innovation, Commercialization, and Entrepreneurship is our largest sponsor in 2025. Um, so we also have, Generator started with investment accelerators. That's the 100K investment. But in gBeta, we don't provide an investment, but we provide all of the same resources that the investment accelerator provides. And we introduce our founders to at least 25 to 30 investors throughout the program. So this is what I mean when I say Generator is a national company. These are Generator's gBeta programs all throughout the United States. We also have one in Luxembourg, Germany, as well as Italy. So we're in over 40 communities nationwide. So it's neat because it's not only connecting you to the network and investors in Alaska, but also nationally. In fact, I just got an email today about to all of our alumni, inviting them to lightning rounds, which are kind of these speed dating sessions with investors. So Generator as a company has graduated over 1,500 startups, and those startups have gone on to raise more than 2.2 billion in cumulative funding and currently exist in 46 communities. And again, we'll be talking about gBeta. This is the team available in Alaska. That's me, Eric Dye as the program manager, Mark Lambert, who's our resident mentor. He actually volunteers his time. He's at every one-on-one throughout the program. He's heavily involved. And then Linda Janes, who's the managing director. The three of us are actually located here in Anchorage. And then Vanessa Huerta is in Denver, Colorado. Um, you might recognize some of the startups on this screen. I really have this here. This is actually missing our 2024 fall cohort who graduated, but I have this up here just to show that this is a geographic specific, aka Alaska specific program, but it's industry agnostic. So it's open to you see Forged and Found here. They make kelp pickles, but it's also WebRes. You might be familiar with Sitkana, which is a hydrokinetic generator company, Cartorium, Montes Corporations. All of them have software developers. Keepers, which is a app, which has gone on to raise over 600,000 at least, I think. So Prisma Text, which is also Zach and Phil, the founders, are developers. So lots of software companies. The nice thing about software companies, right, is that you have low overhead and quite an ability to scale. And so that's where venture capital really is attractive. So again, we've ran this since 2021, but we had a pause in 2023. So it's been 30 companies. Those companies have gone on to raise 5.2 million and created 90 jobs here in Alaska. And half of that money that has been raised has been through venture capital, and about half of it has been through what I would call non-dilutive funding, such as loans or pitch competitions, grants, etc.
And
So what do
quick question.
Mhm.
If the loans part of it or the grants, is that something that's coordinated through gBeta or is another partner company with gBeta in the program?
No, but we like, our goal really is that the startup succeeds and scales. And so um because we are a startup accelerator, we're well connected with, Alaska Growth Capital or Spruce Root or um, resources that help companies write grants and things like that. So we don't do that in the program, but we help connect our founders to the best funding resource that's going to be up their alley. Um, but during the actual program, the investors that we're introducing our startups to are primarily angel investors and venture capital investors. So, what we do, getting to that investor swarm thing, is during the program we start off like kicking off, which I'll get to later, but we do biweekly meetings. That's with myself and Mark Lambert, who are on the screen back there, and that's really to help hold you accountable. We set KPIs, that is key performance indicators for each company, and we work with you on figuring out what should you be targeting, in what milestone should you be setting in the next, you know, 2 years, and then breaking that down into what milestone should you be reaching in the next year, what in the next 6 months. Let's break that down into what are you doing week to week and what are you focusing on? Because when you're a founder, there are so many shiny objects on I should be doing this or these customers are asking for this or in order to make this sale, they want to see this. Um, this it's difficult at the beginning to narrow down the noise and figure out what your product market fit is and really where that sweet spot is to where you can grow and scale quickly. So in these biweekly meetings, we're working on some of the curriculum we go throughout the program, like comparables, financial milestones, competition, um, and pitching, but also just, what is the landscape of your company? Do you need to pivot? What's been the customer feedback? Are you doing that customer feedback correctly? And should you be focused on sales or should you be focused on customer discovery? Kind of figuring out what stage you're at and what you should be focusing on, and holding you accountable throughout the program to hit those milestones. And that builds momentum. And that's what this community in Alaska really can lack is a space, a really something that will build momentum for startups. So that's what we do. And we do that through these things. Lunch and Learn is kind of a once a week meeting, a 1 hour meeting where we cover the curriculum that we then go deeper into and how it applies to you in our one-on-ones that are bi-weekly. And then we do a mentor swarm once a week. And so through the program, our founders meet 30 or more mentors, and these mentors range from, a robotics, someone who founded a self-driving forklift company out of Austin, Texas, has gone through Series A, Series B, Series C, ex-Google robotics person to, a local lieutenant governor who's an extremely well-connected individual who has an investment mindset and knows and business mindset and can help you in that area. So the mentors come in with a whole range of background, whether that's more of a developer side, business side, or just being well connected. And um, we those are kind of like speed dating sessions, and where you go with those relationships, maybe that person's not helpful to you right now, but in 6 months you might want to reach back out to them and say, hey, I like need a lawyer for this. Do you have any recommendations or something like that? So, or hey, I'm looking for connections in this industry now because we're pivoting here. Can you help me out? So these mentors are supposed to, they're like, they literally come to this program to help startups. And that's what's neat about having a startup accelerator is it's really hard to build those kind of connections in such a short amount of time on your own. Um, so we offer warm introductions. We also do that through our investor swarm, which we do at the very end of the program. Once you've really had an opportunity to grow, focus, narrow down what your market is, and are ready to talk to investors. And what you don't go for your all-star investor right at the beginning. You kind of test out your pitches on, maybe 25 or 30 investors in a startup accelerator before you go for your dream. Or maybe some investments come directly out of these. So sometimes it is an investor that you meet in an investor swarm. But it's another hard thing if you've ever written cold emails before, um, to get someone's attention without an actual introduction or that, familiar touch of trust. So that's another thing we do. And then at the end, for fun, I know most people don't like public speaking, but we do a showcase, which really helps just celebrate what you've done in the program and like really set that momentum in the broader community in Alaska with your company. So I'll go into that. And then ongoing support. We don't just, at the end of the program, we still are invested in your success. You're not necessarily going to, raise 600K in the program. That's something we hope you do within the next year or two. So we're here to be that first person you call when something comes up with your company. And we offer a lot of deals and perks that are like real, like AWS credits, whatever, HubSpot, things like that. Generator has relationships with because it's a startup accelerator with these software companies that a lot of startups need at the beginning. So again, these are just some of like our mentors and investors, and like I said, their background really ranges. Um, from all different facets of what a business needs. And this is just a photo from our kickoff. This program is primarily virtual, but we do kick off in person. And for the spring program, that will be March 27th and 28th. And then the rest of the program is virtual since, again, our mentors and investors are from all over the states, and sometimes actually from overseas. So this is our kickoff at King Street Brewing for our fall program, and then the next day at the boardroom, we we got into things right away. Um, our mentor investor swarms over Zoom. And then this is just an example of in the spring, we had a pitch night at 49th State Brewing, going back to kind of building the momentum in the community. Um, and that's like building momentum in the community, like, sounds like fluff, whatever, but it really is an opportunity to inspire, make connections, and things like that. And this is the only other thing that's in person is the pitch night and the kickoff. And this is just some of the ongoing community. If you guys, I occasionally host Sips and Startups at the boardroom. Um, you all are always invited to those. I'll think of a way of, I'll start posting those maybe in the Slack channel um, when I do host them. But again, like it's a lonely path sometimes being a startup founder or startup companies are so much small and we all kind of lean on each other. So it's nice to have that network through Generator and gBeta. And again, our sponsors. And yeah, so that's kind of um, the sum of everything that happens. Uh, I will take questions. The first one I know that I always get is like, am I a fit? Like, am I too early? Am I too late? Or like, what's the right kind of stage? And if you are at the idea stage, I still enjoy talking to those individuals because there are things that you should do between now and maybe starting your company that I'd love to help like get companies there, get founders there. And then there's a lot our network of alumni and like the entrepreneurial community, there's a lot of people to plug in with um, before you maybe start the company. Um, and if it's also if you're at the idea stage, you might not have ever talked to anyone other than your bubble about your idea. So it's helpful to hear these questions you haven't had anyone else ask. Um, and then also if you're, a startup, typically early stage startup, like you can be post revenue or pre-revenue. So maybe you haven't, maybe you're still prototyping. That's fine to apply if you're still kind of developing your prototype, because chances are you're going to have to narrow that down anyway. And then say you have ran a company for many, many years, but you're looking to pivot and kind of do something else. I would still consider that a startup. Um, so yeah, that's kind of hopefully that answers that first question that I often get. Yeah. And any anything else? Um,
Um, yeah, I like the idea that there's ongoing support as opposed to going through the program and then it's kind of like, best of luck and being able to reach back and plug into a community. Uh, it's huge.
mhm.
Um, you've been running these for a while, and I'm wondering, are you seeing any trends that are kind of like shaping the future of startups or in the accelerators pipeline? Like, are there any trends for like the types of businesses that seem like they come in and are doing well?
Hmm. Honestly, at the beginning of this early on, the company is often so much the founder. So that's kind of the biggest differentiator more than the business at such an early stage is this founder like I think what this program does too is like hopefully you come in and we already know that you really want it, but if you know you might like founders that are able to pivot and able to um, focus on the fact that they're solving a problem and it's not just about the product. So what happens when startups often fail when they are like, I have in my mind that this is what I want to build. I'm going to build it and then I'm just going to put it out in the world and people are going to want it. And they don't interact with who's the user and what the user wants. And if you build something in secret for too long and then you put it out, Mark Lambert has a great testimony story to this because his first startup did really well, and then they started working on something and they wanted it to keep it secret, and for 2 years they like slaved over building this thing, and then they put it out and they made zero sales. And yet they worked blood and sweat and tears on this. Um, I forget, I'm not sure what it was, but he's developed, it's all his background is tech. Um, and no one touched it. So the founders, I guess, as far as to answer your question about trends, it really is just a founder being able to take feedback and their product not necessarily being their baby, and instead the problem being what they're in love with.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. We see it a lot because sometimes our projects that we're developing are like our passion project. And it's like, our pet that we're constantly refining in our own little bubble and saying, look,
Hmm.
these features are great. And then we have this perception, oh, people are going to love it. And it's difficult sometimes because, especially in the software development community, a lot of the times when we're talking to people that are building amazing things, but are hesitant to share it because they feel like, well, I maybe it's not something that is production ready. I'm not ready to put it into production when really like getting that feedback from users as early as possible would really help craft your ability to connect with that audience and solve the types of problems that maybe you weren't even aware of that are huge for your demographic. I like the idea of like the having the product market fit. Um, Because I imagine like there's a lot of like exploration that happens in that phase. Do you guys do like a lot of surveys, reaching out to potential customers and building that profile for them so they have an idea of who their audience is?
Yes, if just giving an example, in the last cohort, some companies came in, had a prototype, but hadn't done any dis customer discovery. So we were like, let's take a step back and find out what features your customers like your ideal users, because you should have users in mind, and maybe and if that's not a feature that your users care about, then you're going to spend all this effort, even money. And at the beginning, as a startup, you're trying to be scrappy. I mean, both with your time and your financials. And if you're putting all your resources into making something really cool that really isn't the top priority list, sometimes it's like completely different. So we do that becomes a KPI in the program if someone's not done a lot of customer discovery. Now, if you're at the build stage and you're just like, I just need to get like I've at least validated this, my hypothesis that this is what people want, and at least have some sort of focus, then maybe that's not your KPI, customer discovery, because you can get stuck on like, doing too much customer discovery and not enough building, or like too much building and not enough customer discovery. Another thing about that's great about the mentorship is um, a lot of actually most founders come in thinking that their market is, these people or this industry, and a lot of our mentors or investors have heard pitches from very similar companies to yours, um, and have worked with companies who do something maybe not exactly what you're doing, but very similar. And so they come with kind of a breadth of knowledge of many different industries, and can help offer, feedback as to, have you ever thought about these people as your first customers? Because maybe the customer you have in mind is actually, a customer, they're really hard to get and it's going to take a while, but this is like the first customers you should be trying to reach to get you off the ground to get to those customers. So, or, you want an industry that has less friction at the beginning too. So, that's where the mentorship and connections and network come in really handy.
You mentioned friction. Uh, amongst customers. What do you mean by that?
Certain industries are just going to be harder to sell to, and they're not going to provide you that feedback you need early on to build a good product. Um, so I'm just thinking of, maybe you're like, I'm building something for the healthcare arena, and maybe there's users that need, maybe there's similar organizations that need this, are trying to solve the exact same problem as the healthcare industry as far as like efficiencies in how their operations are, but they're way easier to get a foot in the door with. Will sign a contract much faster because they don't have as many bureaucratic strings attached. And so then they could be your first user, and now you have someone to test on.
Let's see. Sometimes there can be kind of this maybe strange connotation when it comes to venture capitalists, like
Mm.
that kind of money. Do you have advice for someone that maybe has some skepticism when it comes to that, or maybe had some bad experiences?
Founders are really hesitant to give up any equity in their business. And the thing is, you know, some of you might have heard this term, but do you want to own a blueberry, like a whole blueberry, or a slice of a watermelon? And that's kind of the analogy of, if the investors are going to provide capital and connections, a good investor anyway, especially angel investors and early stage investors, hopefully are offering both the capital and the nimbleness you need right at the beginning and connections in the industry if they're really invested in helping you succeed, um, that you otherwise have to figure out on your own or find on your own. And so, you can, if all you want is a lifestyle business, that's fine. And that might be the route that you decide that you want to go. But if you are hoping to sell a company in 5 years, like scale it up really big and sell it in 5 years, um, then it really does require that giving up of equity. But then if you do the math, which we do this in the program, um, the outcome is likely better for you as well, not just for the investor. Um, and and then as far as, investors do have a lot of different opinions. And um, one thing is, if you're meeting with this past cohort met with 32 investors, um, some of that feedback might conflict. And it's up to you, just I think key is to remind yourself that you are the ultimate decision maker. At the end of the day, it's up to you. And so you can take advice or you can leave it. And it can be hard when you're hearing like multiple different types of advice, but that is just part of being a founder of a business in ever. Is just that you get a lot of different feedback and have to make decisions, synthesize it.
They have to do the same thing with the customer profile and feedback. A lot of people are going to offer like what they think should be the next steps, but ultimately you have to kind of weigh like who it is that is like who you're going to go with, like what customer profile are you really targeting, and what really solves the problem, like where your community is really at.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
um, I see we have Kevin. Did you have any questions?
Yeah, sorry I joined a little late. No questions. Definitely very nice information that was presented. I myself own my own business. I have multiple business ideas that are all based around websites. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to talk to you about that. And it's good to see that my good friend Britton Webb, his company, you guys, WebRes, have already supported him. That looked like back in 2001, which is awesome.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've I've been consulting and helping Britton out on the side, trying to support with his development efforts as well as like SEO and all that kind of stuff too. So
It's awesome.
yeah, yeah, happy to be here. Happy to finally jump in, Andre, and put a face to the name too as well. So good to good to be here. I currently I work over at UAA, so I'm in between. I'm actually taking classes again. I'm actually working as a graphic designer for the Alaska Center for Rural Health and Health Workforce. So
Nice to meet you
Okay.
virtually.
yeah,
Yeah, nice to
yeah,
meet you. Happy
yeah.
to
Thanks
connect.
for having me. Yeah, no questions really. Definitely brought some good points to the table. I think, you know, like you said, every investor is going to have their own opinion, and trying to figure out how to weigh those opinions and decipher and really make your own judgment on that is definitely a tricky thing as a business owner. So I've never gone down the route of having any VC or any kind of investment into my companies. So I really don't know much about it. So that's why I'm kind of just here to learn.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think it that's kind of what plugged me in too. I was like, man, I always had like these ideas, and I'm like, man, they'd be great, but I don't really know where to go through, and I wasn't sure when I first heard about the accelerator if that would even be like the way to do that, because I wouldn't want to like waste valuable resources on like my crazy ideas as I try to learn more about and build up my business acumen, but um, yeah, it would definitely be something. So, what's the application process like? Is it like you write up and then you submit, and then only a certain number that they rack and stack? How does it work for the program?
Yes, I should mention that. So our spring, the application process, like applying is pretty simple. It's if you go to, just Google gBeta Alaska, will pop up and you can look at the application form there. It asks for pretty basic information. There's a space to upload a pitch deck, um, a business plan if you have one of those, and if you have an established business, there's boxes for that if you have revenue coming in. Why, questions like why do you think that you're a fit? What are you hoping to get out of the gBeta program, essentially? So we have an idea of just to know what we should talk to you about if kind of clarifies if you know what to expect kind of thing. And really the application is more of it's whether you're accepted is not just based out off of that form. It's that form informs us for how to talk with you about the program. Kind of like applying to job. It's like you submit an application. Okay, now we're in touch. Like let's actually talk about why do you want to work at the company or where like what's your long-term plan and those kind of things and like what have you done so far. So that is kind of through conversations in an office hour with me. So I actually get to know you better and what you know, are hoping to get and can answer any questions and things like that because it's, a two-way conversation. And then the interview is we ask that you put a pitch deck together. And if you've never put a pitch deck together, that's fine. And if it's your first time doing a pitch, we understand that because it is gBeta, it's early stage companies, and many of them have not pitched before. And we're hoping that by the end of the program, you'll have gotten to a position of knowing how to pitch um, your business. So, but that is the interview is like a pitch, and it's with me and then two other employees from the company, Generator. So, what's neat about that, and they're based maybe out of, Florida or Alabama or wherever another program is. And what is really cool about the application process is that it's your opportunity to pitch an idea to people who have worked with, you know, startups from all over and so their questions are going to even inform you. It's something that you can walk away with at the end of the interview, whether you were accepted into gBeta or not, on, okay, how should I think about this and position myself going forward? And I like to stay in touch with those who have applied for next rounds. So, if you're hesitant, I always kind of encourage to apply just to become a touch point as well.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'll just say that for whoever listens to this or whatever, my email was at the end of the presentation. I posted in the AK Developer Slack channel with my information. Feel free to DM me on there. or check out more on our website. But happy to set up an office hour and chat.
Awesome. Thanks for taking some time today to talk to the software development community here in Alaska. Um, if you want to reach out, you have the website for Generator, or catch Erica in our Slack channel, or AK Double Alliance, which you can find at akdoublelines.com. All right, I think that's all the questions that I had for today. I think having an accelerator that was a free program is awesome. And I think that it's totally valuable, just the experience of pitching an idea and like that skill in itself. I think it um, plays into a lot when it comes to engaging people and customers and even teammates on a dev team. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.